Welcome back here at Goldberg. So I am still eggnog deprived, and I've got a limited window to operate in. So hopefully I don't get ahead of myself, even though I have tremendous stamina. We're going to tackle the man-keeping crisis, which is affecting so many gals. Women are dropping out of dating, dropping out of Jenny Craig, dropping out of life. Here from Vogui.com, it's What is Man-Keeping and How Do I Know If I'm Doing It by Emma Spector. You know that friend who always brings her boyfriend to the hang? Go home, Brad, and seems 100% occupied with meeting his various needs, whether that means doing his laundry or making sure he's meeting up with friends and not succumbing to the male loneliness epidemic. So, there's no question lonely men exist, and perhaps now more than in prior eras. But I believe the MLE is being advanced by corporations who are frustrated at the lack of male engagement with consumerism. And you might say it's because these fellows feel with the present culture they won't be able to find a GF, but it's also other elements, such as the fact that bars and cafes, they blow, and not in a good way. They have sucky hours, the staff, it's subpar service, extraordinarily expensive. So I went out to the Beta Male Cafe. There's two locations. One is closer and cozier, but they shut at, 1:30 in the afternoon. Obviously, they can't keep up with my drive. The other one goes a little bit later, which isn't to say that much, but I wanted to work on the book. And I have this Dell laptop I purchased off of eBay a couple years back simply because it's more portable than the one I use for the content, but it uses LibreOffice. And you hit save, you hit save, you hit save on the document, everything's good. You come back, you've lost a week's worth of work because it just spurred out. And so a couple books I'm going to have to go back get from the library again because of this. I started saving it on Dropbox and haven't had an issue since. Just goes to show you. But I'm there maybe 2 hours before closing. I'm working on my stuff. This crazy girl walks in, starts messing with the barista chicks. And one of them, I think, might be interested. She's tall with a fat ass, but she has a bull nose ring. I don't know why she does that. Then the antagonist woman leaves, walks up to the drive-thru, keeps doing it. And they're, both women, they're looking at me, what are you going to do? Like, bitch, it's not my prerogative. I don't need to intervene. Well, I guess that was the wrong answer because it wasn't much later, and the other girl approaches me and goes, we're not trying to kick you out, but we're really trying to leave soon. It's like 45 minutes until closing. You can't win with these people. Then you end up going to McDonald's, and that was an interesting story. I'll have to talk about it another time. I don't want to get too sidetracked. Even going to thrift shops as a guy, if you target the right areas where there's a lot of rich people, you can get fantastic stuff. Sometimes it's 50% off. Why would you go out and engage in the regular economy if you don't have much motivation? Like if you don't have a femcel that you're giving the money to or buying the goods for, you're good as gold. And you can even get Christmas gifts, which I'm already almost done purchasing them. You can get some things that are brand new in these thrift shops. Back to the article. As it turns out, there's now a word to describe her. She's a man keeper, and the work she does to keep her less than motivated male partner going is man keeping in action. But where did the term come from? What's so wrong with it? Man keeping refers to the emotional and social labor that straight women often take on in their relationships with straight men, most specifically around social connection. Yeah, but what about our friends in the gay community? Why are they being left out here? The term is notably used in a 2024 Stanford study entitled Theorizing Man Keeping, the Male Friendship Recession, and Women's Associated Labor as Structural Component of Gender Inequality. The study's researchers describe themselves as introducing the concept of man-keeping, a concept that continues the legacy of Carolyn Rosenthal, I wonder what her background is, of kin-keeping, where we explore three postulates. The woman disproportionately compensate for lack of social support, that this compensation constitutes labor, and such labor comes at a cost to women through their well-being and time. Oh my God, who writes this stuff? This is why I never went for a PhD. What is emotional labor, by the way? Emotional labor is the process of managing one's emotions, the emotions of others to meet the expectations of a job or social role. It often involves displaying emotions that may not be genuinely felt, particularly in service-oriented professions, and can lead to stress and burnout if not managed properly. That's like the story of every man's life if they've worked in a white-collar environment. So solipsism, front and center. One could argue that The Simpsons' Marge is a logistical man-keeper, if not a socio-emotional one. When her husband Homer certainly has no trouble pouring his heart out to his close circle of friends, it often falls to Marge to make sure he's doing bare minimum parenting expectations, going to the doctor, taking care of the house, and hygiene chores, and basically presenting himself to the world like an adult. So, who's raising these men and who's choosing to date these men? Because, to be fair, I've come across plenty of dudes who are utter slobs. If you've ever had, housemates or tenants, you know this is the case. I mean, that's a minor point, but you'll be at the gym in the male locker room. By the way, all the Zoomers like to squeeze each other's muscles and they start like squeezing other appendages as well while staring at each other in the mirror. But anyway, so you'll have these guys come in, and the faucet is an old fashioned one, right? You lift it and it shoots out the water, and then you try to close it, right? So these guys will open the faucet and just walk away. I'm like, what is the matter with you? Like, shut the freaking faucet. I know it's not your utility bill, but it's just that principle. You'll say I'm being a pick me. Hey, women, come my way. I could care less. I will say though, my mom was raised in abject poverty, and as a kid, my experiences from the time probably 5 years old, cleaning bathrooms, doing dishes, learning to do laundry. We had a wood stove, so bringing logs inside the house from the driveway when it was dropped off. I don't get this concept of being essentially a couch potato and your mother does everything for you. But are single dads raising all these men, or is there another gender that's raising these men and they're simply incompetence? I mean, maybe the women who are complaining about this man keeping can explain what's going on. The simple truth is, I believe women gravitate towards such fellows. If you have your life too much together, if you have shelter and you know how to vacuum, you know how to set a load of laundry to go, boil water, all that sort of thing. If you know that you shouldn't be wearing the same clothes 5 days in a row and just spraying some Febreze on it. Hell, if you have a skincare routine, oh my God, they're going to see you as a threat to their power. I believe this whole thing that goes on, when you see on Reddit the woman talking about her boyfriend doesn't wipe his ass, and so all his undergarments are soiled and she's having to wash them. Why would you put up with that? I mean, this is just primitive behavior. And I would suggest to you, it's a sort of Munchausen by proxy. They want to have power. They want someone who's dependent on them. Whereas a fellow who can take care of himself, who can act like a normal human being, is too much of a threat because he could topple her regime. There is no reason why you would be tolerating these sorts of men. Well, maybe they're good looking enough that you don't care, but you think at a certain point, again, we hear all the discourse about women, they achieve more, women hold themselves to these great standards, they're powerlifting in the gym, they're eating healthy. Why would you date a guy who is a soup sandwich? It strikes me that you're making that conscious decision. It's not being forced upon you. We got another article here. This is off of Guardian, semantically about a year old. See, it's a cheap and lazy rhetorical device. A whole generation of men don't feel comfortable opening up to their male friends, which means some of them dump their worries on the female partner. It's an extension of emotional labor, remembering birthdays, organizing social calendars, but effectively requires the partner to act as an unpaid therapist. Have you ever been a man? Well, I guess not, because these are usually female writers. Have you ever tried dating a woman? Here's the thing. You can literally be at your job. You can be in bed with the flu. There's a lot of women who will see that as you abusing them because you're not dealing with their anxiety attack at that given time. And I'm saying this from experience. When I look at this stuff and they talk about trying to have a social calendar. I don't know if it was this article, but they mentioned she's the type of woman who has to get birthday cards for her boyfriend directed towards his male friends. Is that even common? See, referencing the whole gay community, are they trying to bring in more practices that are popular with gay men and saying there's a crisis because straight men are not doing it? I don't think I've ever received a birthday card from one of my male friends. Like, maybe if you have at work, your coworkers might pool together. But the idea that you're getting like individual cards from male friends, I don't think I've ever experienced that, nor would I expect it. That's not something that I believe most men would really, oh my God, I'm missing out because my buddy didn't give me a birthday card. Maybe a gift here or there, or just hang out. This strikes me as completely alien to straight men, which is why I wonder if it's not women who are basically trying to evaluate men through the gay lens. Okay, we have a Stanford again. It's sweet you think this is a new phenomenon. It's fine. Some men have always been lousy at this sort of thing. This is the first time that women are starting to unionize against it. Many of them stopped dating. Only 38% of single women are on the dating market compared to 61% of single men. No, they're on the dating market for specific types of men, whether it's the status, whether it's the money, whether it's the looks. That's what it comes down to. But that will just make men more lonely, which will only exacerbate the problem. They don't care about that by and large. The only way to solve this problem is to make women have sex with undesirable men. Way to go. Maybe they're starting to wake up. I noticed that you didn't actually address that. I wonder how. I would like to look at the comments, but with these articles on Yahoo, they don't load correctly. So, what men should work on themselves instead? Bingo. Perhaps men weren't so beholden to ridiculous masculine archetypes and developed a toolkit for processing their emotions. Some of the discrepancy would disappear. Kind of like how when women go to therapy, it's been known that if women go to therapy and the therapist starts saying, like, you are the problem in relationships, the woman will stop going to that therapist. And generally, when a relationship fails, everyone around the woman will say that it's the guy's fault. They will never actually hold her accountable. So that also has a bit of interplay here. Men processing their emotions. Yeah, but process it in a way where you are always in the wrong and you always have to bend the knee towards the woman. And then men would be so desirable they could go out and pull a load of tens. I have it. It's brilliant. If we can convincingly fake emotional regularity, we can have more sexual congress. Oh, fine, you're right. I am. You shouldn't need to rely on women to shoulder the burden of your emotional constipation. Oh, get a therapist, join some clubs, develop a well-rounded social circle. See, once more it comes back to you're not doing enough, you're not going out, you're not spending adequate degrees of money. That's what this always comes down to. And then you will have sexual congress with me, 36% and falling. It's not my job to carry your emotional burden. This is exactly why I don't open up to women. I'm not even sure. Is this directed at men or is this directed at women? Is it like lesbians? One thing you notice about modernity is that it's this nonstop quest to find a problem that shouldn't truly exist. Like if you look at humanity as it stands right now, there could be significant questions. How do you use resources on the planet without absolutely annihilating the future? How do you avoid certain conflicts? How do you maintain some vague semblance of a nation state, of a culture? And perhaps some would say that's not a priority. I do believe it's crucial. This should be the focus. And yet we have all this. This is what happens when therapy takes over, right? You start trying to bean count everything. Taking care of another person in the context of a relationship should not be seen as, oh, well, I'm not getting paid. Like, am I sitting there like, well, you know, if the woman's having a bad mood and you talk to her, you hold her hand, you give her a hug, oh, well, why am I not getting paid for that? This is always one-sided. And not that I think it's going to happen, but until there is a concerted effort to make women understand what their nature is and hold them accountable for their behavior, I don't see this changing much. Because it's literally like, if you feel that a guy is not doing enough of these things, and notice it's not even in the terms of these articles, they're not even necessarily talking about he isn't doing it towards her. You're talking about towards his friends. So you're expanding the network of grievances and complaints to find a way to disqualify him. But that is extremely petty and irrelevant. The fact that he's not sending a birthday card to a male friend, that's not in the long run going to deep six your relationship. Now, if a dude doesn't know how to wipe his ass, and perhaps his name's Mohammed, you might want to be asking the question of why that is, and maybe as a woman you shouldn't tolerate that. But then you have to go to the next point, which is to say, why as a woman am I prepared to accept a guy who is this filthy and disgusting? And that might lead to some truly divine enlightenment